My sister tried to embarrass me at my baby shower, but my husband had a secret plan. I never thought my baby shower would begin with a room full of silence that screamed louder than any insult. I sat there, 8 months pregnant, my hands resting over my belly, my peach maternity dress clinging to me like a second skin. Everyone was watching, but not with joy, not with love. It felt like judgment dressed up in pastel bows and cupcake platters. My sister, Veronica, made her entrance. Late, of course. Her heels clicked against the hardwood like warning shots. Her hair flawless, makeup sharp, outfit too elegant for a backyard baby shower. She didn't even say hello, just wheeled something behind her with an all-too-smug look on her face. Then, I saw it, a stroller, if you could even call it that. Rusted. One wheel bent like it had been through a war. The fabric was stained, sagging. There was a sour smell clinging to it, like old plastic and damp storage. It wasn't just ugly, it was deliberate. Veronica gave it a little pat and smiled. It fits her life, she said, laughing softly. Alone, and falling apart. For a second, I thought I misheard. Maybe she was joking. Maybe there was a punchline that made this okay. But then my mother, who hadn't even commented on the party I spent weeks planning, added flatly, "She's lucky. She even got invited." The words slid across the room like a blade. They didn't laugh. They didn't wink. No one said a word. My mouth went dry. I felt my cheeks heat, not with joy or pride, but shame, humiliation. My heart thudded so loud it drowned out the music playing from the speakers. I could feel everyone watching, waiting to see how I'd react, and then, under the table, I felt his hand. Ezra. He didn't speak, just let his fingers graze mine, steady, warm, a silent anchor. And then he leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. Just wait. I didn't know what he meant, but the way he said it, I believed him. It was the only thing keeping me from breaking in half right then and there. I used to believe family meant support. But that day, I learned something else. Sometimes, the people you love most are the ones who want you to stay small. That morning, the house smelled like cinnamon, vanilla, and hope. I stood barefoot in the kitchen, tying tiny gold ribbons around. The serving spoons like it somehow mattered more than anything. The cupcakes were lined up perfectly on a glass stand, vanilla filled with strawberry, frosted in soft pink and yellow swirls. I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. making them, not because I had to, but because I wanted it to feel special. I wanted me to feel special. A soft acoustic playlist played in the background, blending with the sound of Ezra inflating balloons in the next room. He came around the corner holding a balloon bouquet shaped like a giraffe. "It's perfect." "Sigh," he said, kissing my forehead, and for a moment I believed him. I ran a hand over my belly, feeling the curve of the life I was growing. This baby, he wasn't just a baby. He was a miracle, a tiny piece of proof that I could survive things people don't talk about at brunch. The endless doctor visits, hormone injections that left me sobbing on the floor, the 2 surgeries that didn't work, and that one phone call where they told me maybe it just wasn't meant to happen. But then, he came. Just when I'd stopped hoping. That's why today mattered so much. Not just because it was a celebration, but because I needed my family to see me. Really see me. Not the girl who always needed help. Not the one who lived in her sister's shadow or made questionable choices, but as a woman, as a mother, as someone who had finally done something worthy. So I invited them all. Even Veronica, who I hadn't spoken to in months. Even my mother, who once said I was too fragile to raise a child. Even Darla, my aunt who never showed up unless she was judging someone. I invited them all because a part of me still believed, naively, that if I made this day perfect, maybe they'd come around. Maybe they'd be proud. Maybe just once they'd say it out loud. I smoothed the tablecloth one last time and stepped back, belly first. Everything looked beautiful, but somewhere deep in my chest, something fluttered. A warning. I told myself, it was just nerves, just hormones, but now I know, it was the first rumble of the storm. They arrived 22 minutes late. Not that I was counting, but I was. I heard the sharp click of Veronica's heels before I saw her, each step a deliberate interruption to the warmth I'd built. She swept into the living room like a guest of honor, not a sister who hadn't returned my texts in weeks. Her lipstick was flawless, her designer dress barely wrinkled. She looked like she'd walked straight off a magazine cover and into a party she had no intention of respecting. Behind her trailed our mother, holding a store-bought fruit tray like it offended her just to be carrying it. They didn't hug me, didn't compliment the decorations. Veronica gave me a once-over, her eyes landing on my belly like it was something borrowed. Mom barely looked at me at all. Still, I smiled. My voice chirped out a, "So glad you're here," as if I hadn't already braced for impact. As if I hadn't hoped, deep down, that maybe this time would be different. Veronica glanced around, spotted the growing pile of gifts in the corner, and smirked. Then, with a theatrical flourish, she rolled in a stroller from the hallway. If you could even call it that. It was rusted. One wheel turned inward. The fabric sagged in the middle like it hadn't supported anything in years. There were old stains along the edge. Juice, maybe, or something worse. It creaked as she pushed it into place, stopping with a dramatic lurch right in front of me. "There," she said. "A little something for your new adventure." I blinked. "Oh, wow, that's, it fits her life," Veronica added, loudly, laughing just enough to make it sound like a joke. No one else laughed. I heard a guest near the drinks table cough. A fork dropped to the floor. A ripple of discomfort moved through the room, but no one said a thing. And then my mother spoke. Not with humor, not with kindness. "She's lucky she even got invited," she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. The words hit harder than I expected. Maybe because they sounded so rehearsed, like something she'd believed for a long time but never said out loud. I felt the blood rush to my face. My stomach twisted, not from the baby, but from shame, embarrassment, betrayal, and worst of all, that stupid old hope in my chest gasping its last breath. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Under the table, Ezra reached for my hand again. "Just wait," he whispered, and somehow I knew I wasn't the only one with something to say. Veronica had always been the golden one. Straight A's, homecoming queen, early promotions. She never just entered a room, she dominated it. Her life looked like a highlight reel. Perfect house, perfect husband, perfect Christmas cards with gold-foiled lettering, and coordinated outfits for her 2 kids. Everything. About her screamed enviable. Me? I was the background blur, the second daughter. The one who colored outside the lines, who cried too easily, who couldn't quite get it right no matter how hard I tried. I was the one who needed tutoring, who dropped out of grad school when my anxiety got too loud. The one who heard, too. Many times to count, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" I used to tell myself it didn't matter, that I'd make my own path. But when I found out I was pregnant after years of struggling, I broke the rule I swore I wouldn't. I called my mother first. I still remember the pause on the line. The long, quiet inhale before she said, "Are you sure that's a good idea right now?" Right now, as if my timing wasn't just inconvenient, but irresponsible. I smiled through it, like always. I let her words soak in, sting, and then settle, like dust on a shelf I'd grown used to dusting, and yet some part of me still wanted their approval. Still thought maybe if I just did one more thing right, if I threw the perfect shower, if I decorated with enough detail, if I smiled wide enough, they might see me differently, might finally say, "We're proud of you." But standing there, looking at that rusted stroller like it was a joke I wasn't invited in on, something broke. Not all at once, but like the first crack in a windshield, tiny but fatal. Why did I still need this? Why did I keep showing up for people who only saw me when they wanted someone to feel better than? I didn't have the answer then, but in that moment, with the whole room watching me squirm, I realized something. The pain didn't start with that stroller. It started years ago, with a girl who just wanted to be seen, and never quite was. Ezra stood slowly, steady as ever, like he had all the time in the world. No one knew what he was doing, not even me. He walked over to the stroller without a word, crouched beside it like it was a puzzle worth solving. His fingers moved with quiet purpose, brushing over the handle, tracing the warped frame like he was searching for something underneath the rust and insult. The room shifted. People stopped pretending to sip their drinks. Conversations froze mid-sentence. All eyes followed him, uncertain whether this was his attempt to diffuse the tension or escalate it. Veronica crossed her arms and watched with thinly veiled amusement. Mom made a small noise in her throat, the kind she used when something felt beneath her. "It's the thought that counts," she muttered, as if that could excuse the entire scene she helped stage. But Ezra didn't respond. He didn't glance at her. Didn't blink. Just kept moving, like the stroller was a map only he could read. His calm wasn't passive. It was intentional. Unshakable. The kind of calm that told the whole room, "You think you've seen everything, but you haven't." And I watched him. I watched the man who had held my hand through every doctor's appointment, who rubbed my back during hormone crashes, who called me warrior when I felt weakest. I watched him now, silent but powerful, and for the first time since they walked in, I felt my shoulders ease. Not because he was defending me, but because he didn't need to. He was reminding me, without saying a word, that I wasn't alone. That no matter how loud their judgment was, his belief in me would always be louder. No one spoke, no one interrupted, but everyone felt it. Something was shifting, and they had no idea what was coming. Ezra's hand moved beneath the stroller handle, fingers brushing against something hidden, something no one else noticed. Click, it was soft. So soft that most of the room missed it, but I didn't. I saw the way his shoulder tensed for just a second, then relaxed. I heard it too, a low hum, mechanical but gentle, like something waking up. The stroller jolted slightly. A few guests leaned forward. Someone near the snack table whispered, "Did it just move?" Then it began. At first, it was subtle. A narrow seam along the side of the frame slid open with a hiss, revealing smooth panels beneath the rusted shell. The bent wheel straightened with a faint hiss. The tattered sunshade retracted itself in one fluid, hydraulic motion. A soft glow emerged from within, pastel lights pulsing beneath the surface like a heartbeat. The stroller, this thing they'd paraded in to humiliate me, was changing. No, transforming. Veronica's arms dropped to her sides. A hush fell over the room, so thick, even the playlist had faded into irrelevance. All eyes were on the stroller as its weathered exterior peeled away, one panel at a time, revealing something stunning. Sleek lines, a brushed aluminum frame, a cushioned interior that looked more like a first-class airline seat than anything. Baby-related? Then, from a tiny speaker near the handle, a voice chimed. Soft, melodic, surreal. "Welcome, baby Lior," I gasped. Audible. Honest. Because even I hadn't known. Ezra stood slowly, brushed off his jeans, and walked back to me, like nothing had happened at all. Veronica looked stunned, her mouth parted, searching for words that didn't come. Even my mother stared, blinking slowly as if she'd just realized the room wasn't hers anymore. Ezra turned back, calm as ever, and said to no one in particular, "Just a little something I've been working on. Was saving it for next week?" But I guess Veronica helped me reveal it early. And in that moment, everything shifted. The joke was over, and the punchline wasn't me. Gasps rippled through the room like a wave breaking over silence. The stroller, no longer a rusted eyesore, stood gleaming in the center of the room, fully transformed. The lights now glowed in calming hues of peach and lavender. A slim touchscreen blinked to life on the handlebar, displaying real-time temperature, tracking features, even white noise lullabies at the tap of a finger. There was a built-in monitor, a self-locking wheel system, a voice recorder. Every inch of it was high-tech, beautiful, and thoughtful. And then, once more, that soft voice spoke from the speaker beneath the handle. "Hello, Mama." I felt my breath hitch, the kind of catch in your chest that only happens when your heart recognizes something before your mind can process it. Ezra stood beside me, hands in his pockets like he hadn't just flipped the emotional temperature of an entire room. "It's something I've been working on," he said casually. "With a friend from the engineering program. We were going to unveil it next week at the design showcase, but—" He turned to Veronica, flashing the faintest, sharpest smile. "Thank you for helping me debut it early." Veronica looked like someone had just unplugged her. Her arms hung limp at her sides, her mouth half open. She wasn't used to being outmaneuvered, especially not by someone who didn't raise his voice or need a stage. My mother said nothing, just blinked slowly like reality was still buffering. Ezra went on, his tone light, but his message clear. "It's built for durability, city terrain, safety first. I figured our baby deserved the best, and since we couldn't find anything that matched what we needed, I built it." A few guests clapped, timid at first, then louder. Someone muttered, "That's actually brilliant." Another whispered, "Is this real?" It was. It was so real, it took my breath away. And the best part? Ezra hadn't done it to impress anyone. He did it because he believed I deserved more. And for the first time, that day, so did I. I stood up, slowly, intentionally, my hand steadying against the chair, the other resting on the curve of my belly. The room quieted again, but this time it wasn't out of discomfort. It was anticipation. Veronica stared at me, still blinking like she couldn't process what had just happened. Her smirk had disappeared somewhere between "Hello, Mama" and Ezra's casual takedown. She looked small. And for once, I didn't. I walked toward the stroller, not the one she thought would humiliate me, but the one that now stood proud and glowing, a symbol of everything she didn't see coming. I ran a hand across its smooth surface, then turned to her, voice calm, clear. "You're right, V," I said. "It does fit my life." She opened her mouth, maybe expecting sarcasm, maybe hoping for a fight, but I gave her neither. "It's stronger than it looks," I continued. "Full of surprises, and definitely not falling apart." The words landed like stone wrapped in silk, quiet, but unshakable. For a moment, Veronica just stared. No retort, no deflection, just silence, the kind that feels like surrender. Then, applause. Soft at first, a couple of claps from the back. Then more. Louder. Guests who'd said nothing when I was being humiliated now nodded, smiling, clapping like they'd been waiting for permission to respond. But I wasn't clapping for them. I was standing for me. Ezra moved beside me again, slipping. His hand into mine, and this time it wasn't to steady me. It was to hold space beside a woman who had just taken her power back. Veronica looked down, adjusted the strap of her purse. Still no words. But she didn't need to say anything. The silence between us said everything. Veronica didn't say a word. She just reached for her purse, slow, stiff, mechanical, and turned on her heel. Her shoes, once thunderous and confident, now sounded like retreat. No goodbye, no explanation, no snide remark to reclaim control. Just the sharp click of exits and a silence too heavy to fill. My mother followed a beat later, her lemonade untouched on the table. She didn't look at me, not really. Her eyes flickered in my direction, unsure, searching for the daughter who used to shrink under her gaze. But I didn't look away. I stood still, chin lifted. And that alone was enough to send her walking. Then there was Darla. She lingered near the doorway, her fingers tightening around her clutch like she had something to say. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked at me, really looked, and I saw it in her face, the realization that I no longer needed her approval, that the old version of me, the one who tried to earn a place at their table, was gone. So she turned too. No apologies, just silence. And I didn't chase any of them. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in their absence. I didn't feel broken or ashamed. I felt whole. I felt seen. I felt like the woman I had fought so hard to become, standing tall in a room I had built with love, surrounded by people who finally understood. I didn't lose anything that day. I let it walk. Out the door. That night, long after the last guest had gone and the lights were dimmed, I sat curled on the couch beside Ezra. His hand rested over mine, warm and protective on my belly, our son kicking gently beneath it, like he knew something beautiful had shifted in the world he was about to enter. The house was quiet. No judgment, no forced smiles, no rusted strollers meant to shame me. Just us. And peace. Ezra reached into his pocket, pulled out a small folded note, and handed it to me without a word. I opened it slowly. For every time they made you feel like less, this is to remind you you've always been more. My throat tightened. The words were simple, but they hit deep, cutting through years of doubt, of shrinking myself to fit into boxes I was never meant to live in. Tears came, not from pain this time, but from release. Ezra pressed a kiss to my temple and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. Not just okay, changed. I leaned into him, into this life we were building, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for taking up space in it. Voiceover. My son will never grow up thinking love has to be earned. He'll know it just because he exists, and so will I. We sat there for a while in the quiet, the hum of the baby monitor in the distance, the soft scent of vanilla still lingering in the air. And in the corner of the nursery, the smart stroller glowed faintly, its lights pulsing soft and steady like a heartbeat, not a monument to what they tried to tear down, but a reminder of everything we built instead.